Making a living isn't always just about punching the clock. Sometimes, it's about risking it all. While most of us sit comfortably at desks or handle jobs that come with little more than a paper-cut hazard, there are people out there who literally put their lives on the line just to bring home a paycheck. From towering heights to unpredictable explosions, these workers face danger every single day. Let's dive into the 15 most dangerous jobs that could kill you in an instant if you're not careful. Number 15. Loggers. If you thought a bad day at work meant too many emails, try dodging a 2-ton tree falling at 50 miles per hour while balancing on uneven, slippery ground. That's logging for you. It's often called the most dangerous job in America, and when your daily equipment includes chainsaws and towering trees, it's not hard to see why. Loggers often work in remote, unpredictable conditions, which means if something goes wrong, like, say, a tree deciding to fall in an unexpected direction, help isn't exactly around the corner. Many logging sites are deep in the wilderness, making rescue efforts slow and difficult. Then there's the machinery, chainsaws, heavy-duty cutters, and massive logging trucks that can crush anything in their way. The biggest cause of death? Trees falling unpredictably or workers slipping while operating dangerous equipment. With a fatality rate of 97.6 per 100,000 workers, logging isn't just risky, it's a daily battle against gravity, nature, and human error. Number 14. Roofers. If you've ever climbed onto a roof to fix a leak or put up Christmas lights, you know how terrifying it can be. Now imagine doing that every single day, often without the right safety equipment. That's the reality for roofers, and it's why they have one of the highest fatality rates in the U.S. A whopping 51.5 deaths per 100,000 workers come from roofing-related accidents, and nearly all of them involve falls. Slipping on a steep roof, tripping over loose shingles, or losing balance on an unstable ladder, it happens way too often. Sure, harnesses are supposed to be mandatory, but let's be real, not everyone follows the rules. On top of that, roofers deal with exposure to harsh chemicals, surprise visits from animals living under tiles, and ChatGPT-like weather that can turn a dry roof into a death trap in seconds. If you ever see a roofer balancing on the edge of a steep rooftop, just know, they're walking on the edge of danger. Number 13. First response rescuers. When disaster strikes, most people run away, but first response rescuers? They run straight toward the danger. Whether it's firefighters, EMTs, or search and rescue teams, these are the people who put their lives on the line to save others. And no matter how many safety protocols exist, some situations are just inherently deadly. In fact, some disasters end up claiming more rescuers than original victims. That's not just bad luck. It's the brutal reality of the job. A study by OSHA found that rescuers account for around 60% of all confined space fatalities, which means most of the time, the people trying to save lives are the ones who don't make it out. Firefighters face 2.3 deaths per 100,000 fires, while EMTs deal with a growing trend of assaults from bystanders, because apparently, saving lives isn't hard enough already. Being a first responder isn't just a job, it's a constant gamble with life and death. Number 12. Slaughterhouse workers. This isn't just a messy job. It's one of the most dangerous jobs in America. Slaughterhouse workers operate under intense pressure, processing millions of animals every single day using razor-sharp tools and high-speed machinery. And when you're working at that speed, accidents aren't just common, they're inevitable. A knocker, the person responsible for stunning cattle before slaughter, processes one cow every 12 seconds, meaning they handle thousands of animals a day, all while using a high-powered bolt gun that can easily turn on them if they slip up. In 2015 alone, 5.4% of all slaughterhouse workers suffered an injury, and 270 lost a body part in workplace accidents. But the dangers go beyond amputations. Long-term workers often develop nerve damage from repetitive motions. bacterial infections from handling raw meat, and mental health struggles from working in such a high-stress, gruesome environment. Well, it is dangerous and also a bit cruel. What do you say? Number 11. Underground mining machine operators. Mining has always been a job where you either come back covered in dust, or you don't come back at all. The deeper you go, the higher the stakes. While mining technology has advanced, the risks are still terrifying. Cave-ins, gas explosions, equipment failures, and of course, the constant possibility of being crushed by hundreds of tons of rock. Mines are dark, cramped, and full of dangerous gases. One unexpected spark, boom. Sudden gas buildups can ignite and send shockwaves tearing through tunnels, which are conveniently designed to funnel that force straight to the workers. If the blast doesn't get you, the falling debris might. Then there's the heavy machinery, bulldozers, drills, and massive shovels, which are just as deadly as any explosion. With a death rate of 26.9 per 100,000 workers, mining is a brutal, claustrophobic, and high-risk profession where even a minor mistake can lead to a catastrophe underground. Number 10. Construction supervisors. You'd think the biggest risks on a construction site would be for the workers hauling bricks and welding steel beams, right? Wrong. Turns out construction supervisors are actually at higher risk of fatal injuries than the workers they oversee. With a fatality rate of 21 deaths per 100,000 workers, supervisors move all over the site, putting them in harm's way more often than the average construction worker. They don't just stick to one task. They're dodging cranes, navigating unstable scaffolding, and walking right through active machinery zones. And since they're usually checking on progress rather than doing the actual work, they're less likely to be wearing safety gear. That means more falls, more crush injuries, and more unexpected hazards that turn routine site inspections into deadly accidents. So next time you see a construction supervisor walking across a site, just know they're taking a bigger risk than you might think. Number 9. Landscapers. Landscaping seems like a peaceful, creative job. Sunshine, fresh air, and making outdoor spaces look like something out of a magazine. But here's the kicker. It's actually one of the deadliest jobs out there. With a fatality rate of 25.1 per 100,000 workers, it's not just about mowing lawns and planting flowers, it's about dodging hazards that could land you in the hospital or worse. First off, the terrain is a nightmare. Landscapers work on uneven, unstable ground, often using heavy-duty tools like chainsaws and power drills that can cause gruesome injuries if mishandled. And don't even get started on the constant exposure to deafening noise and relentless vibrations. Long-term effects include nerve damage, chronic pain, and hearing loss. But the real wild card? Nature itself. From venomous insects to hidden underground electrical cables waiting to zap an unlucky worker, the dangers are everywhere. Plus, the physical demands of the job, constant lifting, bending, and repetitive motions, wreak havoc on the body over time. So, while landscaping might look like a relaxing gig from the outside, the reality is a daily battle against dangerous tools, unpredictable terrain, and nature's hidden traps. Number 8. Steelworkers. Steelworkers don't just build skyscrapers, they risk their lives doing it. With a fatality rate of 21.3 per 100,000 workers, this job is an all-day balancing act of extreme heights, heavy machinery, and molten metal. One mistake, you're either falling, burning, or getting crushed. Working on high-rise buildings means there's zero room for error. Even with safety harnesses, wind gusts, unstable scaffolding, and slippery surfaces make every step a potential last one. And if that wasn't risky enough, the steel itself is a hazard. Handling scorching hot metal, breathing in toxic fumes, and enduring the constant pounding of industrial noise takes a serious toll on the body. The worst part? It only takes one miscalculation to end in disaster. Whether it's a faulty weld, an old piece of equipment, or just bad luck, steelworkers face danger at every single stage of the job. And yet, despite the risks, they continue to shape the world we live in, one beam at a time. Number 7. Truck drivers. Most people don't think of trucking as a high-risk job, but the numbers don't lie. With a fatality rate of 26.8 per 100,000 workers, truck drivers face more on-the-job deaths than any other profession. The issue? Fatigue. Truckers work insanely long hours, sometimes pushing through exhaustion just to meet deadlines. And when you're behind the wheel of a massive multi-ton rig, even a moment of drowsiness can be catastrophic. Then there's the constant danger of road accidents. Bad weather, reckless drivers, and mechanical failures all turn highways into death traps. And it's not just accidents. Truckers are often targeted by criminals, especially if they're hauling high-value goods. Robberies, hijackings, and assaults are all too common in certain regions. Beyond the immediate dangers, the physical toll is brutal. Sitting for hours, eating unhealthy food, and dealing with chronic stress lead to serious long-term health issues. And since many truckers don't have easy access to medical care on the road, minor problems often turn into major, life-threatening conditions. Number 6. Refuse workers. Most people don't give their trash a second thought after tossing it in the bin, but for refuse workers, garbage collection is a life-threatening job. With a fatality rate of 34.9 per 100,000 workers, it's one of the most dangerous professions in the world, ranking higher than police work. Why? Because every shift is like playing a dangerous game of what's in the bag. Workers handle everything from sharp metal to toxic chemicals, and they never really know what they're grabbing. One small mistake, and boom, serious injury or exposure to something nasty. Then, there's the machinery. Garbage trucks are basically moving industrial compactors. And if a worker gets caught in the wrong place at the wrong time, it can be fatal. But the biggest threat? Other drivers. Since garbage trucks stop in the middle of traffic, workers are constantly at risk of getting hit by impatient or distracted drivers. Bottom line, next time you see a refuse worker, appreciate the fact that they're risking their lives to keep our streets clean. Number 5. Sulfur mining. Imagine carrying nearly 200 pounds of solid sulfur on your back while trekking up a steep volcanic crater twice a day. That's the brutal reality for sulfur miners at Kawah Ijen, Indonesia, one of the most dangerous jobs in the world. At the heart of the Ijen volcano complex, there's a crater lake so acidic it could melt metal. But what makes this place surreal is the blue fire that lights up the night, a result of burning sulfuric gases. This otherworldly spectacle comes at a deadly cost. Miners inhale toxic fumes daily, many without masks. The suffocating gas clouds cause severe lung diseases, cancers, and even early death. And if that wasn't enough, there's the constant risk of falling into the crater where survival is slim. Despite the extreme danger, miners earn only $13 a day, making it one of the most grueling and underpaid professions on the planet. Number 4. Farmers. Farming sounds peaceful, right? Rolling fields, fresh air, a connection with nature. But in reality, it's one of the deadliest jobs out there, and not because of the cows, although, fun fact, they kill more people than sharks. Farmers deal with unpredictable weather, dangerous machinery, and grueling physical labor every day. Heavy machinery is the biggest hazard. Tractors, harvesters, plows, all capable of crushing, cutting, or trapping someone in an instant. The real issue? Well, farmers usually work alone. If something happens in the middle of a field, it could be hours before anyone even realizes there's an emergency. And when you add livestock into the mix, things get even crazier. In the UK alone, cattle were responsible for 18% of workplace deaths in farming between 2015 and 2020. That's right, cows are killing people. With a fatality rate of 20.9 per 100,000 workers, farming isn't just about growing food, it's about surviving long enough to harvest it. Number 3, landmine removal. Most dangerous jobs have some level of predictability. This one wrong step and you're gone. Landmine removal specialists risk their lives daily to clear explosive remnants of past wars. Countries like Cambodia, Afghanistan, and Angola are littered with millions of active landmines, decades after conflicts ended. In some places, children mistake them for toys, with tragic consequences. Clearing landmines is painstaking work. Each step is a gamble. The mines, often buried for decades, can malfunction and detonate unpredictably. Even with cutting-edge detection tools, mistakes are often fatal. While fatalities are rare, losing limbs, suffering shrapnel wounds, or permanent disabilities are common. Despite the horrifying risks, these workers keep going, because for them, saving lives is worth risking their own. They're the unseen heroes turning war zones into safe land, one deadly inch at a time. Number 2. Fishers. Fishing isn't just about tossing a net in the water and waiting for dinner. It's one of the deadliest jobs on the planet. With a fatality rate of 77.4 per 100,000 workers, the ocean is a brutal, unpredictable beast, and commercial fishers battle it every single day. For starters, working conditions are unforgiving. Slippery decks, massive waves, and heavy, unpredictable machinery make for a lethal combination. One slip, one rogue wave, or one tangled net, and you could be going overboard. And in icy waters, survival time is minutes, not hours. Then there's the weather. Storms roll in fast, and when you're miles from shore, there's no safe harbor. Boats capsize, waves flood decks, and visibility drops to near zero. Add in exhaustion from working 16-plus-hour shifts and handling hundreds of pounds of fish and equipment, and it's a recipe for disaster. Despite these dangers, fishing remains one of the oldest and most essential professions. But make no mistake, every time a fisher sets sail, they're rolling the dice with their life. Number 1. Small aircraft pilots. Flying a big commercial jet? Safe as can be? Flying a tiny aircraft over the ocean with nothing but the hum of your engine and a whole lot of faith? That's a different story. While commercial airlines have safety down to a science, small aircraft pilots, whether they're crop dusters, bush pilots, or solo adventurers, face an entirely different level of danger. The biggest killers? Well, sudden weather changes, mechanical failures, and good old-fashioned bad luck. Take pilots flying across the Atlantic in small aircraft. At least 3 die every year on this route alone because their planes aren't big enough to climb over storms, forcing them straight into turbulence, wind shears, and icing conditions. And for those flying in remote areas with rough terrain, a mechanical issue means crash landing in the middle of nowhere, far from any help. With a fatality rate of 58.9 per 100,000 workers, small aircraft pilots are constantly one mistake, or one bad storm, away from disaster. We hope this video hits your soul. If it does, then please like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you very soon in the next one.